Hey, star-crossed souls. Ready to risk everything for a love no law can allow. Welcome to a world where pack loyalty runs deeper than blood, where ancient feuds carve boundaries no wolf dares cross, and where two hearts are about to shatter every rule written in the old ways. This is the story of Kiera and Rowan, wolves born on opposite sides of a century-old war, destined to hate each other, fated to fall impossibly, devastatingly in love. Some loves are meant to be hidden in the shadows, but can they survive the light? Chapter 1. The neutral zone smelled like rain and regret. Kiera Ashwood stood at the edge of the clearing, her boots sinking into moss-softened earth as fog rolled through the ancient pines. This strip of land, barely 200 yards wide, was all that separated Ashwood territory from Blackthorn land. Neutral ground, they called it. Sacred, her father said. Cursed, her mother whispered when she thought no one was listening. Tonight, it just felt lonely. She shouldn't be here. The monthly border patrol wasn't scheduled until tomorrow, and venturing this close to Blackthorn territory alone violated at least 3 pack laws. But Kiera needed the space, needed the silence, needed to breathe air that didn't taste like duty and expectation. 23 years old, and she'd never made a single choice that was truly hers. The wind shifted, carrying the sharp scent of pine and something else, something wild and magnetic that made her wolf stir beneath her skin. Kiera froze, every instinct snapping to attention. She wasn't alone. Ashwood. The voice came from the shadows, deep, rough, edged with the same tension coiling through her own body. A figure stepped into the moonlight, and Kiera's breath caught despite herself. Rowan Blackthorn. She'd seen him before, of course, at the quarterly peace talks that barely kept their packs from open warfare. Across the neutral zone during tense border negotiations. Always at a distance, always surrounded by his pack, always wearing that same expression of cold contempt that every Blackthorn seemed to perfect in childhood. But never like this. Never alone. Never close enough that she could see the silver flecks in his storm-gray eyes. You're on neutral ground, Kiera said, forcing steel into her voice even as her pulse hammered. Same as me. Am I? He moved closer, prowling rather than walking, his leather jacket creaking softly. Or are you hoping to start the war your father's been itching for? My father wants peace. Your father wants submission. Rowan stopped 10 feet away, close enough that she could feel the heat of him, smell the musk of cedar and midnight that clung to his skin. There's a difference. Kiera's hands clenched at her sides. She should shift. Should howl for her pack. Should do anything except stand here, rooted to the spot by eyes that looked at her like she was something other than an enemy. Why are you here? She demanded. Same reason as you, I'd guess. His gaze traveled over her face, lingering on her lips before snapping back up. Running from something. Or maybe running toward it. I'm not running from anything. Then you're a better liar than I am. He smiled, but it was a sad, twisted thing. We're both prisoners, Kiera. Just in different cages. The sound of her name on his lips sent electricity down her spine. No Blackthorn had spoken her name in anything but curses for as long as she could remember. Hearing it now, soft and almost tender, felt like touching a live wire. Don't, she whispered. Don't what? Don't make this more complicated than it has to be. Rowan laughed, a low, bitter sound. Too late. It got complicated the moment I caught your scent 3 months ago at the last summit. Do you remember?
She did.
God help her, she did. She'd been standing with her father's council, pretending to listen to another round of territorial disputes when the wind had shifted. For just a moment, she'd smelled smoke and wilderness and something indefinable that called to every part of her wolf. She'd looked up, and Rowan Blackthorn had been staring at her across the divide. I don't know what you're talking about, Kiera lied. You're doing it again. He took another step closer, and now there were barely 5 feet between them, close enough to touch, close enough to kill. That thing where you pretend you don't feel it. There's nothing to feel. Liar. The word was soft, almost affectionate. Your heartbeat just doubled. I can hear it from here. Damn him. Damn her. Damn this whole impossible situation. We're enemies, Kiera said, and hated how much the words hurt coming out. I know. Our packs have been at war for 100 years. I know that too. My great-grandfather killed your great-grandfather. Your grandmother slaughtered half my father's hunting party. There's blood between us that can never be washed clean. Kiera. He said her name again, and this time it sounded like a prayer. I know. Then why? Because sometimes knowing something and feeling something are two different hells. Rowan closed the remaining distance between them in one fluid movement, and suddenly he was right there, so close she could count the barely healed scars along his jawline. Because I've spent 3 months trying to hate you, and I can't. Because every time I close my eyes, I see you standing in that clearing, looking at me like maybe, just maybe, you felt it too. Felt what? Her voice came out barely above a whisper. This. He didn't touch her. Didn't have to. The air between them crackled with energy, with want, with something so fierce and undeniable that Kiera felt it in her bones. Her wolf surged forward, recognizing something in him that her human mind refused to accept.
Mate. No.
Impossible. The moon didn't bind natural enemies. Didn't link bloodlines soaked in each other's pain.
Did it?
This is insane, Kiera breathed. Completely. We can't. I know. Our families would kill us both. Rowan's hand lifted, hovering near her face, but not quite touching. I know all of that, Kiera. Believe me, I've cataloged every reason this is impossible. I've spent 93 days trying to convince myself you were just a pretty face at a boring summit. That what I felt was just wolf instinct, nothing more. And I'm done lying to myself. His fingers finally made contact, the barest brush against her cheekbone, and Kiera gasped at the shock of it. One touch, and I knew. You felt it too. Don't tell me you didn't. She should pull away. Should shift and run. Should do literally anything except lean into his palm, savoring the warmth of his skin against hers like it was the first time she'd ever been touched. This can't happen, she said, even as her body betrayed her, swaying closer. I know. We'll destroy everything. Probably. People will die. They might. His other hand came up, framing her face like she was something precious. But Kiera, I'm already dying. Have been for 3 months. Dying every day I don't see you. Don't hear your voice, don't. A howl split the night, high and sharp and unmistakably Blackthorn. Rowan jerked back like he'd been burned, his head snapping toward the sound. His jaw clenched, and Kiera saw the war playing out behind his eyes. Duty versus desire. Loyalty versus something new and terrifying. I have to go, he said. Rowan, don't come back here. His voice was rough, urgent. It's not safe. If my pack finds you alone on the border, I can handle myself. I know you can. That's not what scares me. He was already backing away, putting distance between them, even though every line of his body screamed the opposite. What scares me is what I'd do if they tried to hurt you. Another howl, closer this time.
Male.
Aggressive. Go, Kiera urged, even though the word tasted like ash. Rowan held her gaze for one more heartbeat. 2, 3. Then he turned and ran, shifting mid-stride into a massive black wolf that disappeared into the shadows of Blackthorn land. Kiera stood alone in the clearing, her hand pressed to her cheek where his fingers had been, her wolf howling inside her chest. What had she just done? She needed to go home. Needed to forget this happened. Needed to bury this feeling so deep that no one, not her father, not her pack, not even herself, could ever dig it up again. Instead, she breathed in the lingering scent of cedar and midnight and knew with bone-deep certainty that she was completely, catastrophically screwed. Because Rowan Blackthorn was right about one thing. She had felt it. Had been feeling it for 3 months. And now that she'd touched him, talked to him, seen the longing in his eyes that mirrored her own. Now, there was no going back. Kiera shifted and ran toward Ashwood territory, her paws eating up ground as her mind raced faster than her body. She'd made it halfway home when she realized the truth. She was already planning when she could see him again. Chapter 2. Kiera made it back to Ashwood Manor just before dawn, slipping through the service entrance like a thief in her own home. Her muscles ached from the run, but it was nothing compared to the war raging inside her chest, her wolf pacing restlessly, wanting to turn back, to find him, to claim what every instinct screamed was theirs. She couldn't. She wouldn't. She splashed cold water on her face in her private bathroom, staring at her reflection. Same copper-red hair, same green eyes, same face she'd seen every day of her life. But something had shifted. She could see it in the flush of her cheeks, the dilation of her pupils, the way her lips still tingled from almost kisses that never happened. One meeting, one touch, and she was unraveling. A knock at her door made her jump. "Kiera?" Her brother's voice. "Dad wants everyone in the Great Hall. Now." Marcus didn't wait for an answer, he never did. Kiera heard his footsteps retreat down the corridor and forced herself to take 3 steadying breaths before following. The Great Hall was already packed with the pack's inner circle when she arrived. Her father, Alpha Thomas Ashwood, stood at the head of the ancient oak table, his silver-streaked hair gleaming in the firelight. His beta, Uncle James, flanked his right. Her mother sat to his left, her face carefully blank. Never a good sign. "Kiera, good of you to join us." Her father's tone was mild, but his eyes were sharp. "Late run." "Couldn't sleep," she said, taking her seat between Marcus and her younger sister, Sage. It wasn't technically a lie. "Well, you're not going to sleep any better after this news." Thomas placed his palms flat on the table. "I've received word from the Council of Alphas. They're demanding action on the Blackthorn situation." Kiera's stomach dropped. What kind of action? The kind that ends a century of bloodshed. Her father's jaw tightened. One way or another. "They're forcing an alliance," her mother said quietly. "Or a final war." The room erupted. Pack members shouting over each other, some calling for blood, others urging caution. Kiera sat frozen, her father's words echoing in her skull. Alliance.
War.
2 impossible choices. Enough. Thomas's alpha command silenced the room instantly. "The council has given us 6 months to resolve this. Either we find a way to permanent peace with the Blackthorns, or they'll sanction a challenge war. Winner takes all territories, loser disbands completely." "We can take them," Marcus growled. "Blackthorns are brutes, but they're not strategists. We're not going to war if we can avoid it." Thomas's gaze swept the room. "Which means we need to find another way." The council suggested a union. The temperature in the room plummeted. "A union?" Uncle James leaned forward. "You mean a mating between our packs?" "It's been done before. The Riverside and Mountain Packs ended their feud with a bonding ceremony 30 years ago. They're one of the strongest alliances in the region now." "Those packs weren't soaked in each other's blood," someone muttered. "No," Thomas agreed. "Which is why it'll mean more if we can pull it off. A true peace, sealed by the old laws." His eyes landed on Kiera, and her heart stopped. "I've already reached out to Alpha Blackthorn. He's considering it."
Oh God.
"Oh no. Who would you offer?" her mother asked, though Kiera could hear the resignation in her voice. She already knew. "Kiera is our eldest unmated daughter. She's a warrior, respected by the pack, and she carries my direct bloodline. If we're going to make this work, it has to be a match that matters." Thomas looked at her, and for just a moment, she saw something like apology in his eyes. "I know this isn't what you wanted, sweetheart, but it might be our only chance. You want me to mate with a Blackthorn?" Her voice came out flat, emotionless, even though her insides were screaming. "I want you to save our pack. To end this cycle of violence before it destroys us all."
He paused.
"But I won't force you. This has to be your choice."
Choice.
The word was almost funny. Sage grabbed her hand under the table, squeezing hard. Marcus looked murderous. Her mother's eyes had gone suspiciously bright.
Who? Kiera asked.
"If Blackthorn agrees, who would it be?" "His eldest son, Rowan." The room tilted. Kiera gripped the edge of the table, fighting to keep her expression neutral even as shock and something terrifyingly close to hope exploded through her chest. Rowan. They were talking about binding her to Rowan, the man she'd just been forbidden to want. The enemy she'd touched in the moonlight, like he was the answer to every question she'd never dared to ask. I need time, she managed, to think about it. You have 3 days. That's when I'm meeting with Blackthorn to discuss terms. Thomas stood, signaling the meeting's end. I know what I'm asking. But Kiera, this could change everything. For all of us. The pack filed out slowly, conversations buzzing like angry bees. Kiera stayed seated, her mind spinning so fast she thought she might be sick. Kiki? Sage's voice was small. Are you okay? I don't know yet. Kiera stood on shaking legs. I need to go. Where? Anywhere but here. She made it outside before her knees buckled, sinking onto the manor's stone steps. The pre-dawn air tasted like copper and pine, and she drew it into her lungs in great, gasping breaths. A union with Rowan Blackthorn. Sanctioned. Legal. Expected. Everything she'd told herself she couldn't have, suddenly offered on a silver platter wrapped in duty and pack politics. But at what cost? Would it be real, or just another cage? Would he even want this? Or would he see her as the enemy his father forced him to accept? And the biggest question, the one that made her chest ache, was last night real, or had he known? Had their meeting in the clearing been genuine, or had he been playing her from the start, softening the enemy's daughter before the real negotiations began? You look like you've seen a ghost. Kiera's head snapped up. A figure emerged from the tree line, lean, dark-haired, with eyes the color of old gold. Nadia Thornwood, Ashwood Pack's best scout, Kiera's childhood friend, and the only person who'd ever been able to read her like a book.
Nadia.
What are you doing out here? Same thing as you. Thinking. Nadia sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. I heard about your father's plan. The whole pack's talking about it. Of course they are. For what it's worth, I think you should do it. Kiera stared at her. You think I should mate with a Blackthorn? I think you should stop the war before more people die. I think you should take control of your own fate instead of letting it control you. Nadia's voice softened. And I think there are worse things than being bound to someone you're already half in love with. I'm not. Kiera started then stopped. How did you know?
Please.
I've known you since we were pups. You've had that look for months now. Distracted. Restless. Like you're here, but not really here. Nadia bumped her shoulder. Plus, I may have been doing some unauthorized scouting near the border last night. Saw a certain red wolf sprinting back, like the devil was chasing her. Nadia. I'm not going to tell anyone. Your secret's safe. She paused. But Kiera? If this is real, if you actually care about him, this might be your only chance. The universe doesn't hand out many second chances to star-crossed lovers. And if it's not real, if he was just, then you'll figure it out. But you'll never know if you don't try. Kiera dropped her head onto Nadia's shoulder, exhaustion crashing over her. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You've just been too stubborn to notice. They sat in comfortable silence as the sun crept over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled, long and lonely. Kiera closed her eyes and made her decision. Chapter 3. The Blackthorn Alpha's response arrived at noon the next day, delivered by a grim-faced messenger who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Kiera watched from the manor's upper windows as her father broke the wax seal, his expression unreadable. She'd spent the last 24 hours in agony, trying to figure out how to contact Rowan. She needed to know if last night had been real. Needed to hear from him directly whether he'd known about the proposed union, whether their meeting had been strategy or something else entirely. But getting a message to enemy territory was suicide. The neutral zone was watched constantly by both packs now, especially after the Council's ultimatum. Any attempt to cross would be seen as an act of aggression. Unless she had help. You're plotting something. Sage appeared in her doorway, arms crossed. At 18, Her baby sister was already showing the tactical brilliance that would make her a formidable beta someday. I can see it on your face. I don't know what you're talking about.
Please.
You have your dangerous idea face on. The same one you had before you climbed the old bell tower on a dare, or when you challenged Marcus to that moonlight race through the gorge. Sage stepped inside and closed the door. Whatever you're planning, I want in. Sage. Don't sage me. You're my sister. If you're about to do something stupid, I'm going to help you do it. Despite everything, Kiera smiled. It's not stupid. It's just complicated. Does it involve the Blackthorn son? Kiera's silence was answer enough. Sage's eyes went wide. Oh my God. You've met him. Before all this. That's why you look like someone punched you in the chest every time Dad mentions his name. Keep your voice down. Holy shit, Kiera. This is... Sage grabbed her hands, excitement and worry warring on her face. Okay. What do you need? I need to get a message to him. Before the official meeting. I need to know if... Kiera trailed off, not sure how to finish. If it's real, Sage supplied softly. If you're walking into this blind, or if he feels it too. Yes. Sage paced the room, mind clearly working through scenarios. The neutral zones too watched. Any messenger would be intercepted. But she stopped, turning. What about the lunar market? Kiera's heart jumped. The lunar market, a neutral trading ground where packs from across the region gathered once a month to exchange goods, news, and gossip. It was held under a flag of truce, protected by ancient laws that even the bloodiest feuds respected. And it was happening tonight. Both our packs will be there, Kiera said slowly. If we're careful, you could accidentally cross paths. Pass a message. Maybe even talk without starting World War III. Sage grinned. Dad always sends you to represent the pack at the market anyway. He'd never suspect. He might, after yesterday's announcement. Then bring backup. Bring me and Nadia. Make it look official. 3 guards for the Alpha's daughter. Sage squeezed her hands. Let me help you, Kiki. Please. Kiera pulled her sister into a fierce hug. Thank you. Thank me by not getting killed. Mom would never forgive me. The lunar market sprawled across 5 acres of consecrated ground, lit by hanging lanterns that cast everything in warm, flickering gold. Vendors hawked herbs, weapons, jewelry, information, anything that could be bartered or sold under the moon's protection. Kiera walked the aisles slowly, Nadia on her left and Sage on her right, hyper-aware of the Blackthorn wolves scattered throughout the crowd. She'd spotted at least a dozen wearing their pack's signature black leather and silver rings, but none of them were him. Maybe he wasn't coming. Maybe he'd heard about the proposed union and decided to stay away, to avoid complicating things further. Or maybe he didn't feel the same way at all. There. Nadia's voice was barely a whisper. 3 o'clock, by the Blade Merchant. Kiera's gaze followed, and her breath caught. Rowan stood examining a set of throwing knives, his dark hair falling across his forehead as he tested the weight of one blade. He looked different in the market's warm light, less dangerous, more human. But when he glanced up, scanning the crowd, and his eyes found hers, the world narrowed to just the two of them. He saw her. Recognition flickered across his face, followed by something that looked like pain, then longing so intense it made her chest ache. He felt it. Whatever was happening between them, he felt it too. Rowan said something to the merchant, paid for the knives, and moved deeper into the market. Kiera waited 30 seconds, then followed, her guards trailing at a discreet distance. She found him in the quieter section where rare book dealers displayed their wares, far from the main crowd's noise. He was pretending to examine an ancient text on pack law, but his shoulders were tense, his jaw tight. Fancy meeting you here, Kiera said softly, moving to stand beside him. Kiera. Her name sounded like relief. I wasn't sure you'd come. I wasn't sure you would either. She picked up a book at random, anything to make this look casual. Did you know? About what our fathers were planning?
No.
His voice was rough. I found out this morning when my father told me I was being traded like livestock to end a war. He paused. Did you? Found out yesterday. in front of the entire pack council. They stood in silence, both staring at books neither of them were reading. "So, what do we do?" Rowan finally asked. "I don't know. I keep asking myself if this is fate or just a really cruel coincidence." Kiera risked a glance at him. 2 nights ago, we were forbidden. Now we're expected. Commanded, even. It changes things. Does it? Her voice came out sharper than intended. Or does it just make it more complicated? Rowan set down his book and turned to face her fully, despite the danger. "Kiera, what happened in the clearing, that was real. I didn't know about any union, any negotiation. I was there because I couldn't stay away anymore. Because I've been going slowly insane for 3 months, trying not to think about you." Her wolf surged, recognizing the truth in his words. "But now," she pressed, "now that duty and desire are suddenly aligned? How do we know what's real?" "Because I'm terrified," he said simply. "If this was just duty, I'd be relieved. Problem solved, war averted. Everyone goes home happy. Instead, I'm standing here breaking every protocol to talk to you, and all I can think is that if we do this, if we actually go through with this union, it'll be real in ways that could destroy us both."
Why?
"Because if we're bound and it doesn't work, we'll be trapped in a political marriage with someone we can't have but can't leave. And if it does work..." He shook his head. "If it works, if this feeling is real and lasting, then we'll have everything to lose. Every time there's pack tension, every time old grudges surface, we'll be caught in the middle. Loving each other might be the easiest part. Living with that love could tear us apart." Kiera hadn't expected that level of honesty. Hadn't expected him to voice the exact fears that had kept her up all night. "So, what do you want to do?" she asked. "Honestly?" Rowan's lips quirked in a sad smile. "I want to grab your hand and run. Find some neutral territory and say to hell with our packs, our duties, all of it. Just be free. But we can't."
No.
"We can't." He looked at her, and the longing in his eyes made her ache. "So, instead, I'm going to tell you the truth, and you can decide what happens next. The truth is, I want this. The union, the bond, all of it. Not because my father commands it or because it'll end a war, though those are good reasons. I want it because that night in the clearing, I felt something I've never felt before. Like I'd been searching my whole life without knowing what I was looking for, and then there you were." Kiera's eyes stung. "Rowan, I'm not finished." He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "But I won't trap you. If you want to refuse, if you'd rather find another way, I'll stand with you. I'll tell my father the union's off, and we'll figure out something else. You owe me nothing, Kiera. Not duty, not sacrifice, not your future. And what about what I want?" The words came out fierce, passionate. "You're so busy giving me choices that you're not asking what I'd choose." His eyes darkened. "What would you choose?"
You.
"I'd choose you. Even knowing how hard it'll be, even knowing we might fail, I'd rather try with you than succeed with anyone else." She reached out, her fingers brushing his. The touch sent electricity through them both. "I felt it too. In the clearing. And every day since. Like my wolf recognizes yours in a way that defies everything we were taught." Rowan's hand closed around hers, warm and solid and real. Mate bond. Impossible. And yet. His thumb traced circles on her palm. "What do we do now?" "We survive the next 3 days. Then we meet with our fathers and agree to the union. On our terms." Kiera squeezed his hand. "We go into this with our eyes open, knowing it'll be hard. But we do it together." "Together," he echoed, and it sounded like a vow. "Kiera." Nadia's warning hiss cut through the moment. "We need to go. Blackthorn guards heading this way." Rowan released her hand instantly, stepping back. But the loss of his touch felt physical, painful. 3 days, Kiera said. 3 days, he confirmed. "And Kiera? Whatever happens, I'm glad it's you." She wanted to say more. Wanted to tell him that despite the impossibility, despite the danger, she was glad too. That for the first time in her life, duty and desire were pointing in the same direction, and it terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. Instead, she just nodded and walked away, feeling his gaze on her back like a brand. Sage fell into step beside her as they left the market. So, did you get your answer? Yeah, Kiera said softly, watching the lantern light dance across the trees. I did. And I'm going to marry my enemy and pray we don't destroy each other in the process. Sage linked their arms together. Well, at least it won't be boring. Despite everything, Kiera laughed. Her sister was right about that, at least. But as they crossed back into Ashwood territory, Kiera couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been watching them at the market. Someone who'd seen her and Rowan together, seen their hands touch, seen the truth written on both their faces. Someone who wouldn't be happy about a union that might actually bring peace. She pushed the thought away and focused on the next 3 days. 3 days to prepare for a life she'd never imagined, with a man who might be her salvation or her ruin. 3 days until everything changed. Chapter 4. The meeting took place on neutral ground, in a centuries-old stone pavilion that had hosted more pact negotiations than anyone could count. Kiera arrived with her father, Marcus, and Uncle James, her formal leathers making her feel like she was heading to battle rather than a peace talk. In a way, she supposed she was. The Blackthorns were already there when they arrived. Alpha Gavin Blackthorn was a mountain of a man, silver-haired and scarred, with eyes the same storm gray as his son's. He stood flanked by his beta, a vicious-looking woman named Sarah, and Rowan, who looked like he hadn't slept in days. Their eyes met across the pavilion, and Kiera felt that same jolt of recognition, of rightness, that had hit her in the clearing. Thomas. Gavin's voice was gravel and ice. You wanted to talk. So talk. The council has given us a choice, Thomas said, getting straight to business. Peace or total destruction. I'd prefer peace. As would I. But peace requires trust, and trust is something our packs haven't shared in a very long time. Gavin crossed his arms. You're proposing a union, a bonding between my son and your daughter. I am. A traditional mating ceremony, witnessed by both packs and sanctioned by the council. Binding and permanent. And you think that'll magically erase a century of blood?
No.
But it'll give us a foundation to build on. A shared future instead of a shared grave. Gavin was quiet for a long moment, his gaze moving to Rowan, then to Kiera. What do the children think? Have you asked them? I did, Thomas said. Kiera agreed to hear the terms. Rowan, I'm here, aren't I? Rowan's voice was steady, but Kiera could see the tension in his shoulders. I'll do what needs to be done for the pack. Dutiful. But that's not what I asked. Gavin stepped forward, his expression hard. Are you willing to take an Ashwood as your mate? To bind yourself to their bloodline, to swear the old oaths, to share your life with the daughter of the man whose grandfather killed your grandfather? The pavilion went deathly quiet. Rowan looked at Kiera, and in his eyes she saw everything they'd left unspoken at the market. The fear, the hope, the impossible gravity pulling them together despite every reason to resist. Yes, he said simply. I am. Gavin's expression flickered. Surprise, maybe, or something like respect. Then he turned to Thomas. And your daughter? Thomas looked at Kiera, and she stood, meeting Gavin Blackthorn's gaze head-on. I understand what's being asked, she said, her voice carrying across the pavilion. I understand the history, the pain, the reasons this should be impossible. But I also understand that sometimes the only way forward is through something new. Something that's never been tried before.
She paused.
So yes, I'm willing. Even knowing it might fail? Even knowing both packs have members who'll see this as betrayal? Even knowing that, Kiera lifted her chin. Because the alternative is more death, more loss, more generations growing up hating each other for crimes they didn't commit. And I'm tired of it. Something shifted in Gavin's expression, a crack in the armor, maybe. He nodded slowly. All right then. Let's discuss terms. The next 2 hours were brutal. Every detail of the union was negotiated, argued, and grudgingly agreed upon. The ceremony would take place in 1 month, under the full moon, with both packs in attendance. Kiera and Rowan would live on neutral ground for the first year, a newly built home on the border between territories, to symbolize their role as bridges between the packs. There would be shared patrols, joint councils, merged hunting grounds. Every aspect of pack life that had been separate for a century would slowly, painfully, be integrated. And through it all, Kiera and Rowan sat across from each other, saying nothing, their gazes meeting occasionally in moments of shared understanding.
This was really happening.
In 1 month, she'd be bound to him. For life. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like finally exhaling after holding her breath for years. One last thing, Gavin said as the meeting drew to a close. There will be those in both packs who oppose this, who see peace as weakness, who profit from the old ways. I want assurances that if something happens, if someone tries to sabotage this union, we handle it together. No accusations, no assumptions. Unified front. Agreed, Thomas said. Any threat to this peace is a threat to both packs. The alphas gripped forearms in the traditional seal of agreement, and Kiera felt the weight of it settle over her like a mantle. It was done. The deal was struck. As the meeting broke up, Rowan caught her eye and jerked his head toward the eastern edge of the pavilion. Kiera gave him a slight nod and drifted in that direction, staying casual. They met behind one of the stone pillars, hidden from view of both parties. 1 month, Rowan said quietly. 1 month, Kiera agreed. Are you scared? Terrified. You? Same. She bit her lip. But also, hopeful? Is that crazy? If it is, we're both insane. He leaned against the pillar, close enough that she could feel his warmth. I know we agreed to this in front of our families, but I need to hear it from you now. Just us. No politics, no pressure. Do you want this? Want me? Kiera looked up at him, this man who should have been her enemy, who instead felt like the missing piece she'd never known she was searching for.
Yes, she said.
I want this. I want you. The smile that crossed his face was like sunrise, brilliant and new and full of promise. Then we make it work. Whatever comes, we face it together. Together, Kiera agreed, and felt the words settle into her bones like a truth. A throat cleared nearby. They both jumped, spinning to find Sarah, Gavin's beta, watching them with an unreadable expression. Your father's waiting, she said to Rowan, her voice neutral. And Ashwood, your family's leaving. Thank you, Kiera said, but Sarah was already walking away. Do you think she'll tell? Rowan asked. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. In a month, everyone will know. Kiera straightened her jacket. I should go. Kiera. He caught her hand, just for a moment. I'll see you at the ceremony. You better. I'd hate to be left at the altar. He laughed, and the sound warmed something deep in her chest. Then they separated, returning to their respective packs, and Kiera felt the loss of him like a phantom limb. The ride back to Ashwood Manor was quiet. Her father seemed lost in thought. Marcus was brooding, and Uncle James looked troubled. Do you trust them? Marcus finally asked. The Blackthorns. Do you really think this will work? I think we have to try, Thomas said. And I think your sister is braver than any of us for agreeing to this. I'm not brave, Kiera said softly. I'm just tired of the alternative. Marcus reached over and squeezed her shoulder. For what it's worth, I hope he's good enough for you. And if he's not, I'll kill him myself. Thanks, I think. They were nearly home when Kiera noticed the smell, smoke, faint but distinct, carried on the evening breeze. Her wolf perked up alert. Do you smell that? She asked. Thomas's expression went grim.
Yeah.
I do. They crested the final hill, and Kiera's heart dropped. The eastern watchtower, the one that overlooked the neutral zone, was burning. Flames licked at the ancient wood, sending black smoke billowing into the darkening sky. But it wasn't an accident. Painted across the stone foundation in crude red letters was a message. No peace. No union. Blood for blood. Get everyone back to the manor, Thomas ordered.
Now.
And someone send word to Blackthorn. He needs to know someone's declared war on this alliance. As they raced toward home, Kiera's mind spun. Someone had done this. Someone who'd known about the meeting, about the agreement, about the union. Someone who wanted to make sure peace failed before it even began. And as she looked back at the burning watchtower, silhouetted against the sunset, Kiera couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The real war wasn't between the packs anymore. It was against whoever wanted to keep them divided. And they had 30 days to figure out who before everything went up in flames. Chapter 5. The investigation into the watchtower fire turned up nothing. No scent trails. The arsonist had used wolfsbane to mask their smell. No witnesses. The guard rotation had conveniently been changed that afternoon, leaving that section unpatrolled. No evidence except the message painted in what turned out to be deer blood. Whoever had done this knew both packs' security protocols intimately, which meant the threat came from within. Kiera stood in the wreckage 3 days later, Nadia at her side, studying the charred remains. The structure was a total loss, but the foundation remained, along with that damning message. "It could be anyone," Nadia said, kicking at a piece of burned timber. "Someone from our pack who thinks you're betraying your heritage. Someone from Blackthorn who sees peace as surrender. Hell, could even be both a conspiracy. Whoever it is, they're smart. And patient." Kiera crouched, examining the stonework. They waited until after the agreement to make their move. "They want us to go into this ceremony afraid. Is it working?" Kiera thought about Rowan, about the way he'd looked at her in the pavilion, about the promise they'd made to face everything together. "No," she said. "It's just making me angry." A howl echoed across the territory, the signal for an incoming messenger. Kiera and Nadia exchanged glances and ran toward the manor. The messenger was Blackthorn, a young male named Finn who looked like he'd run the entire way. He was doubled over, gasping, when they reached him. "Report," Thomas commanded, striding out of the manor with half the council at his heels. "Attack," Finn managed. "On our southern border. 3 of our patrol guards injured. Someone ambushed them with silver-tipped arrows." They left another message. Kiera's stomach clenched. What did it say? "Ashwood aggression will not stand. The Union is a trap." Finn straightened, his young face furious. "My alpha wants to know if this is how you honor agreements. By attacking our wolves while negotiating peace." "We didn't attack anyone," Marcus snarled, stepping forward. "But someone's trying damn hard to make it look like we did." "Enough." Thomas's alpha command silenced them both. "Finn, tell your alpha that Ashwood had nothing to do with this attack. We've had our own incident. Our eastern watchtower was burned the night of our agreement. Someone's targeting both packs." Finn's anger flickered to confusion. "Both packs." "Both packs," Kiera confirmed. "Someone wants this union to fail. Someone who benefits from keeping US at war." But who? That was the question that had kept Kiera up for 3 nights straight. "I don't know yet," Thomas said. "But we're going to find out. Tell Gavin I'm proposing a joint investigation. Our best trackers working with his. If we're going to stop this, we need to work together." Finn nodded and left to carry the message. The moment he was gone, the council erupted into arguments. "This is suicide," someone shouted. "Mixing our packs before the ceremony? We'll be vulnerable." "We're already vulnerable," Uncle James countered. "Divided, we're easy targets. Together, we might actually catch whoever's doing this." "Or it's a Blackthorn trick," another voice called. "Attack their own wolves, blame us, justify breaking the agreement." "Enough conspiracy theories," Thomas snapped. "Every moment we spend pointing fingers at each other is a moment the real enemy gets away. We're doing this." His gaze swept the room, landing on Kiera. "And you're going to lead it?" Kiera blinked. "Me? You and Rowan. Joint command of the investigation. It'll send a message that we're unified. Plus," Thomas's expression softened slightly, "you two need to start learning to work together. Might as well start now." Kiera wanted to argue, leading a joint investigation with her future mate while someone actively tried to sabotage their union seemed like a recipe for disaster. But she also understood the political calculation. If she and Rowan could present a unified front, could actually solve this together, it would go a long way toward legitimizing their union in the eyes of both packs. When do we start? She asked. Tomorrow. Blackthorn's sending a team to meet you at the second watchtower. You'll coordinate from there. Thomas paused. Kiera, be careful. Whoever's behind this is willing to kill to stop the Union. That makes you and Rowan prime targets. I'll keep that in mind. The next morning dawned cold and gray, with fog rolling through the forest like ghost breath. Kiera arrived at the second watchtower with Nadia, Marcus, and two of their best trackers, Cole and Jasper. The Blackthorn team was already there. Rowan stood at the center of the group, dressed in dark tactical gear that made him look every inch the warrior prince. His team consisted of 4 wolves including Sarah, his father's beta, who watched Kiera with those same unreadable eyes from the pavilion. Ashwood, Rowan greeted formally, though his gaze lingered on her face. Blackthorn. Kiera moved to stand across from him, feeling the weight of both teams, watching their every interaction. Shall we get started? They spread maps across a makeshift table, marking the locations of both attacks. The watchtower fire, the ambush on the southern border. Looking at them together, a pattern emerged. They're targeting our infrastructure, Cole observed, pointing to the marks. The watchtower gave us visibility over the neutral zone. The southern border patrol route is our main connection to the Riverside Pack, our allies. Isolating us, Rowan said grimly, making it harder for either pack to call for help if things escalate, which suggests whoever's doing this is planning something bigger, Sarah added. These attacks are just the opening moves. The ceremony, Kiera said, realization hitting her like ice water. They're going to hit us during the ceremony. When both packs are gathered in one place, guards spread thin trying to protect the gathering rather than the territories. Rowan's jaw clenched. It's brilliant. And brutal. So we cancel, Marcus said. Postpone until we catch whoever's behind this.
No.
Kiera and Rowan spoke simultaneously, then looked at each other. Postponing is exactly what they want, Kiera continued. It shows weakness, gives them more time to plan, and makes both packs question whether the Union is worth it. We move forward, Rowan agreed. But we set a trap. Let them come for us during the ceremony, and we'll be ready. That's a huge risk, Nadia pointed out. If we're wrong about the timing, then we're wrong. But I don't think we are. Rowan looked at Kiera, and in that moment, they were completely in sync. This person wants to make a statement. Wants to prove that peace is impossible. What better way than disrupting the ceremony itself? Agreed, Kiera said. So we have 3 weeks to figure out who and prepare our defenses. They spent the next 4 hours going over security protocols, comparing notes on pack members who'd expressed opposition to the Union, and mapping out defensive positions for the ceremony. And slowly something shifted. The Ashwood and Blackthorn wolves started talking to each other, sharing information, even laughing occasionally when someone made a dark joke about their situation. Kiera watched Nadia and one of Rowan's trackers, a lean male named Dash, arguing good-naturedly about the best way to set a perimeter. Watched Marcus grudgingly admit that Sarah's tactical assessment was not terrible for a Blackthorn. Watched the impossible start to become possible. We're going to make this work, Rowan said quietly, coming to stand beside her as they took a break. The Union.
The peace.
All of it. You sound sure. I am. Because if our packs can learn to work together in 3 weeks while someone's actively trying to kill us, imagine what they can do in 3 years. 3 decades. Kiera smiled despite the circumstances. You're an optimist. I'm realistic. And the reality is, we're stronger together. Our enemy knows it. That's why they're so desperate to keep us apart. Rowan. Sarah appeared, her expression troubled. We need to talk. Privately. They moved away from the group, and Kiera felt a prickle of unease at Sarah's body language. What is it? Rowan asked. I've been going through the patrol logs like you asked, cross-referencing timing of guard rotations with the attacks. Sarah pulled out a folded paper. There's a pattern. Both attacks happened during shifts that were changed at the last minute, and the person who authorized both changes. She paused, glancing at Kiera with something like apology. Was who? Kiera pressed. Your Uncle James, Sarah said quietly. He's your beta, so he has authority over patrol schedules. And according to these logs, he personally changed the rotations that left both targets vulnerable. The world tilted. Uncle James, her father's best friend, the man who'd taught her to hunt, who'd carried her on his shoulders when she was small. That's impossible, Marcus said, having moved close enough to hear. Uncle James has served this pack for 30 years. He'd never. I'm not accusing him, Sarah said quickly. I'm saying the evidence points in his direction. It could be a setup. Someone could be framing him. Or he could be the traitor. One of Rowan's wolves said bluntly. Kiera's mind raced. James had been vocal about the union. She remembered now. Not openly opposed, but cautious.
Questioning.
Always asking what they were giving up, what the cost would be. We need to investigate him, Rowan said. Quietly. If he is involved and finds out we're onto him, he'll either run or accelerate his plans, Kiera finished. Both of which are bad. So what do we do? Nadia asked. Kiera looked at Rowan, and in his eyes, she saw the same determination she felt. We watch him. Both of us. Between our two packs, we should be able to keep tabs on his movements without raising suspicion. She took a breath. And we prepare for the possibility that someone we trust is the enemy. The words tasted like betrayal, but she forced them out anyway. Because this was bigger than one person. Bigger than her relationship with her uncle, her father's trust in his beta. This was about the future. And she'd be damned if she let anyone, even family, destroy it. Chapter 6. Watching Uncle James proved harder than expected. The man had been a beta for 3 decades. He knew how to move unseen, how to cover his tracks, how to maintain the perfect appearance of loyalty while possibly planning betrayal. If he was planning betrayal, Kiera still couldn't quite believe it. But the evidence kept mounting. 2 more incidents in the following week. A cache of silver weapons discovered hidden near Blackthorn territory but on Ashwood land, and a series of threatening letters delivered to prominent pack elders on both sides, each one sealed with mixed pack scents that made them impossible to trace. And every single time, James had been unaccounted for. Away on pack business. Meeting with border contacts. Always with explanations that sounded reasonable but couldn't quite be verified. Kiera was going quietly insane, trying to reconcile the uncle she loved with the evidence stacking against him. You look exhausted, Rowan said, and Kiera nearly jumped out of her skin. They were meeting at their usual spot now, a small hunting cabin halfway between territories that had become their unofficial headquarters for the investigation. It was also the only place they could be alone without raising suspicions, which added a complicated layer to their already complicated situation. I didn't sleep well, Kiera admitted, sinking into one of the cabin's worn chairs. Kept dreaming about the ceremony. About something going wrong. Same. Rowan sat across from her, close enough that their knees almost touched. 2 weeks left. Half the time I think we've got this handled, and the other half I'm convinced we're walking into a massacre. Comforting. I try. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Talk to me. What's really bothering you?
Kiera hesitated.
They'd been working together for a week now, growing more comfortable with each passing day. But talking about her uncle felt like exposing a wound she wasn't ready to show. It's James, she finally said. I keep thinking about him. About how he taught me to track, to hunt, to read the forest. He was there when my mom was sick, holding the family together. He's been loyal to my father for longer than I've been alive. But the evidence. I know. The evidence says he's guilty.
My head knows that.
But my heart. She pressed a hand to her chest. My heart says there's something we're missing. Some piece that would make this all make sense. Rowan was quiet for a moment. Then he reached out and took her hand, the first time they'd touched since the market, since everything had become official and political. The contact sent warmth flooding through her. What if we're both right, he said softly. What if the evidence points to James because someone wants it to? Someone who knows exactly how to frame him, how to use his position against him. Then who? Who would benefit from framing our beta? Someone with access to the same information he has. Someone who understands pack security well enough to exploit it. Rowan's thumb traced circles on her palm, and Kiera found it hard to concentrate. Someone in a position of trust. That describes half the pack leadership. Then we narrow it down. Who is vocally opposed to the Union? Who has the most to lose if peace actually works? Kiera thought back through the council meetings, the arguments, the resistance. Most opposition had been general, people afraid of change, worried about giving up territory or autonomy. But there had been one voice consistently pushing hardest against compromise. Victor, she said slowly. My father's cousin. He's been arguing for aggressive expansion for years. Says we should absorb Blackthorn territory, not share it. I know the type. My father has someone similar. Maddox, his war chief. Always pushing for confrontation. Rowan leaned forward. What if they're working together? What if this isn't about one pack versus another, but about a faction in both packs that profits from war? The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Victor had access to patrol schedules through his position on the War Council. Maddox would have the same access on the Blackthorn side. Together, they could coordinate attacks, plant evidence, frame James to eliminate the one person who might uncover their conspiracy. We need proof, Kiera said. Agreed. But we also need to be smart about this. If Victor and Maddox realize we're onto them, they'll move up their timeline. Strike before we're ready. Kiera squeezed his hand. So we keep watching James publicly, make them think their misdirection is working. But privately, we investigate them. And we tell no one. Not your father, not mine. Not until we have enough evidence to prove it beyond doubt. It was a dangerous plan. If they were wrong, they'd be wasting precious time chasing the wrong suspects. If they were right but couldn't prove it, Victor and Maddox would walk free while James took the fall. And if Victor and Maddox discovered the investigation before they were ready. I trust you, Kiera said suddenly. Rowan's eyes widened slightly. What? I trust you. I know we barely know each other. I know this whole situation is insane, but sitting here right now, I trust you more than I've trusted anyone in a long time. Something shifted in his expression, vulnerability mixing with hope. I trust you too. Which terrifies me, honestly. I've spent my whole life being taught that Ashwoods are the enemy, that trusting one would get me killed. And here I am, about to bet everything on you being right. We're betting everything on each other, Kiera corrected. That's different. Is it?
Yes.
Because we're in this together. Whatever happens, whatever we find, we face it as a team. Rowan stood, pulling her up with him, and suddenly they were very close. Close enough that she could see the silver flecks in his gray eyes, smell the cedar and midnight scent that clung to his skin, feel the heat radiating off his body. Kiera, he said, his voice rough. Can I? Yes. She didn't let him finish the question. Just closed the distance between them and kissed him. The world exploded into sensation. His lips were warm and firm, tasting like coffee and something wild. His hands came up to frame her face, gentle despite their strength, and Kiera felt her wolf surge forward, recognizing its mate with a certainty that made her bones ache. This was what she'd been missing, what she'd been searching for without knowing. Home. Rowan deepened the kiss, one hand sliding into her hair while the other wrapped around her waist, pulling her flush against him. Kiera made a sound somewhere between a gasp and a moan, her fingers curling into his jacket. They broke apart only when breathing became necessary, both panting, foreheads pressed together. I've wanted to do that since the clearing, Rowan admitted. Since I first caught your scent, and my wolf went completely insane. Why didn't you? Because I was terrified it would ruin everything. That you'd push me away, that I'd lose even the possibility of this before I'd had a chance to. He stopped, swallowing hard. To what? To fall for you. Which I'm doing, by the way. Falling. Hard and fast and probably completely foolishly. Kiera's heart felt too big for her chest. Not foolish. Or, if it is, we're both fools together. He kissed her again, softer this time, like a promise. When they finally pulled apart, the cabin felt different, charged with possibility and new understanding. We should get back, Kiera said reluctantly. Before someone comes looking. I know. But Rowan didn't let go immediately. Kiera? After the ceremony, after we're bonded, I want this to be real. Not just politics or duty. I want us to actually try. Me too, she said, and meant it with everything in her. They left the cabin separately, maintaining appearances. But as Kiera made her way back toward Ashwood territory, she couldn't stop smiling. 2 weeks until the ceremony. 2 weeks to catch a traitor, stop a conspiracy, and somehow survive to actually have the future they'd just promised each other. It should have felt impossible. Instead, it felt like hope. Chapter 7. The night before the ceremony, all hell broke loose. Kiera was in her room, trying on her ceremonial dress for the 1,000th time, when the emergency howl split the air. Not the usual warning signal. This was the ancient call for imminent attack, a sound that made every wolf's blood run cold. She shifted instantly, the dress forgotten, and bolted for the manor's main hall. Her father was already there, barking orders to a flood of panicked pack members. Marcus stood at his shoulder, face grim. And Uncle James. James looked stricken. His hands shook as he pulled on his tactical vest, his usual confidence shattered. Report, Thomas commanded as Kiera skidded to a halt. The ceremony site, a scout gasped. Someone's planted explosives. Silverlace charges designed to detonate during the bonding ritual. If we hadn't done that final security sweep. How many? Rowan's voice cut through the chaos, and Kiera's head snapped around to find him in the doorway, his own pack flooding in behind him. At least 6 that we found. Could be more. The scout looked between the 2 alphas. Sirs, we need to evacuate. Clear the whole area and…
No.
Thomas and Gavin spoke together. No, someone yelped. But the ceremony's in 12 hours. Which is exactly why we're not evacuating, Gavin said grimly. Whoever planted those charges wants us to panic. Wants us to cancel, to prove that peace is impossible. We're not giving them that satisfaction. We disarm the explosives, Thomas continued. Quietly. And we set a trap. Whoever did this will want to watch their work. They'll be nearby, waiting for the chaos. And we'll be waiting for them, Rowan finished, moving to stand between the 2 alphas. A unified front. The next 4 hours were brutal. Teams of both packs working together to locate and disarm the charges. Kiera worked alongside Rowan, Nadia, and Sarah, her heart in her throat every time they uncovered another explosive. Whoever had done this knew what they were doing. The charges were sophisticated, hidden in places designed for maximum casualties. If even one had detonated during the ceremony, dozens would have died. This is it, Rowan said quietly as they disabled the 6th charge. This is their endgame. Kill as many people as possible, destroy any chance of peace, start the final war. And frame James in the process, Kiera added, because they'd found patrol logs near one of the charges. Logs with James's signature, logs showing him approving access to the ceremony site. Planted evidence. It had to be. We need to draw them out, Sarah said. Make them think the trap is still active. Agreed. Kiera stood, her mind racing. We disarm the charges, but leave the detonation mechanism intact. Make it look untouched. Then we wait. And when they come to trigger it? Nadia asked. We take them alive, Rowan said. We need confessions. Proof that can't be dismissed or explained away. They spread the word carefully, only to trusted members of both packs. The rest were told the site was secure. The ceremony would proceed as planned. Let the conspirators think their plan was still active. As dawn broke, Kiera found herself back at the hunting cabin, exhaustion making her bones ache. Rowan appeared minutes later, looking equally destroyed. In 12 hours, we'll either be married or dead, he said, sinking into the chair beside her. Such romantic thoughts. I try. He reached for her hand, lacing their fingers together. Kiera, if something happens, if this goes wrong. Don't. I need to say it. He turned to face her fully. If something happens, I need you to know that these past 3 weeks have been the best of my life. That meeting you, knowing you, falling for you, it's been worth every risk. Tears stung her eyes. Rowan. And I need you to know that I love you. I know it's fast, I know it's crazy, but it's true. I love you, Kiera Ashwood, and I can't imagine facing tomorrow with anyone else. The tears spilled over. I love you too. So much it scares me. He kissed her then, soft and desperate and heartbreakingly tender. When they pulled apart, Kiera saw her own fear reflected in his eyes. Let's make a promise, she said. We survive tomorrow. We catch whoever's doing this, we get married, and we spend the next 50 years proving that love can conquer anything. Deal, Rowan said, and kissed her again. The ceremony began at sunset. Both packs gathered in the clearing that had been prepared for weeks. The full moon hung heavy overhead, casting silver light across the assembled wolves. Kiera stood at one end of the ceremonial path, dressed in traditional white, her heart hammering. At the other end, Rowan waited in formal black, his eyes finding hers across the distance. This was it. Everything they'd fought for. Everything they'd risked. The ceremony began. Traditional vows spoken in the old language. Blood oaths sealed with silver daggers. The pack leaders binding their children's hands with blessed rope, symbolizing the union of bloodlines. And through it all, Kiera felt eyes watching from the shadows. Waiting.
Hunting.
They were here. The conspirators. Ready to trigger their trap and watch the world burn. The final vow was spoken. The ropes were cut. Rowan pulled Kiera into his arms for the bonding kiss, and the crowd erupted into cheers. And in the shadows, someone moved.
Now,
Rowan shouted, and everything happened at once. Victor broke from the treeline, sprinting toward the detonation trigger they'd deliberately left accessible. Behind him, Maddox emerged from the opposite side, both men thinking they were about to murder everyone they'd sworn to protect. They never made it. Nadia tackled Victor from the side, taking him down hard. Sarah did the same to Maddox, and within seconds, both men were surrounded by warriors from both packs. What? Victor snarled, then stopped as he saw the crowd. Saw that everyone was alive. Saw that the trap had been turned on him. Victor Ashwood, Thomas said, his voice carrying over the sudden silence. Maddox Blackthorn, you're both under arrest for conspiracy, attempted murder, and treason against your packs. You can't prove anything, Maddox spat. Actually, we can, Rowan said, pulling a small recording device from his pocket. You've been watched for 2 weeks. Followed, documented, recorded. We have everything. The weapon caches. The threatening letters. The altered patrol logs. All of it. And the explosives you planted today? Kiera added. We disarmed them hours ago. You were never going to succeed. This was just about catching you in the act. Victor's face went pale, then red with rage. You stupid children. You think you can just erase a century of blood? We're wolves, not pets. The Blackthorns murdered our kin. And the Ashwoods murdered ours. Maddox struggled against his restraints. This union is a betrayal of everything we are. No, Gavin said quietly, moving to stand beside Thomas. This union is exactly what we are. Wolves.
pack.
Stronger together than apart.
You too forgot that.
Forgot that our enemy isn't each other. It's the fear and hate that keep us divided. Take them to the holding cells, Thomas commanded. Both of them. They'll face trial under council law. As the traitors were dragged away, still screaming about betrayal and blood, Kiera felt the tension drain from her body. It was over. Actually over. So, Rowan said, turning to face her. We're married now. And no one's dead. I'd call that a successful ceremony. Kiera laughed, slightly hysterical. Your standards are remarkably low. Wait until you see our honeymoon plans.
Very romantic.
Lots of interrogations and tribunal preparations. My favorite. He pulled her close, and the gathered packs erupted into genuine cheers this time. No threat hanging overhead. No conspiracy lurking in shadows. Just two wolves bound together, starting something new. I love you, Rowan whispered against her hair. I love you too, Kiera whispered back. My mate. My partner. My impossible, wonderful choice. The party lasted until dawn, both packs celebrating together for the first time in a century. And as Kiera danced with her new husband under the fading moonlight, she thought about everything they'd overcome, everything they'd risked, and everything they'd won. Chapter 8. The morning after the ceremony, Kiera woke in unfamiliar surroundings, the new home built on the border between territories, exactly halfway between both packs. Neutral ground. Their ground. And she wasn't alone. Rowan was sprawled beside her, one arm thrown across her waist, his face peaceful in sleep in a way she'd never seen while he was awake. The bond hummed between them, not just the political union, but the mate bond that had been building since that first night in the clearing.
Complete.
Unbreakable.
Theirs.
She traced a finger along his jaw, marveling at the simple miracle of being allowed to touch him, of waking up beside him, of this being her life now. His eyes opened, storm gray and warm. Morning, wife. Morning, husband. The words felt strange on her tongue. Good strange. We survived. We did more than survive. We won. He pulled her closer, nuzzling into her neck. Victor and Maddox are in council custody. Both packs are talking about actual integration. Your uncle's name is cleared, and I get to wake up next to you every morning for the rest of our lives. When you put it that way, it sounds almost easy. Oh, I'm sure the next 50 years will be absolute hell. He kissed her shoulder. Politics, pack drama, probably at least 3 more assassination attempts. You're terrible at romance. I'm realistic. But also, he shifted to look at her properly. Also completely, stupidly in love with you. So, even the hell parts will be worth it. Kiera's heart squeezed. I love you too. Even when you're being pragmatic about assassination attempts. They stayed in bed longer than they should have, trading lazy kisses and whispered promises, the bond singing between them. But eventually duty called. The council tribunal was scheduled for that afternoon. Both Victor and Maddox would face judgment for their crimes. As key witnesses and the symbolic heart of the new alliance, Kiera and Rowan were expected to attend. Are you nervous? Rowan asked as they dressed in formal attire. About the tribunal?
No.
They're guilty. The evidence is overwhelming. Kiera adjusted her jacket. I'm more nervous about what comes after. After? After the traitors are punished. After the spectacle is over. When it's just us trying to actually make this work. 2 packs with a century of hate, learning to live as one. She turned to face him. That's the real challenge. Not catching the bad guys, building something new from the ashes. Rowan crossed to her, taking her hands. You're right. It's going to be hard. There will be resistance, setbacks, moments where we wonder if this was all a mistake. But Kiera, his thumbs traced circles on her palms. Look at what we've already accomplished. 3 weeks ago, our packs wouldn't work together even under threat of extinction. Last night, they fought side by side. Celebrated together. That's not nothing. No, she agreed softly. It's not nothing. It's everything. The tribunal took place in the Great Council Chamber, with representatives from 5 neighboring packs in attendance as neutral judges. The room was packed, wolves from both Ashwood and Blackthorn crowding in to witness justice. Victor and Maddox were brought in separately, both in silver restraints that suppressed their wolves. Victor looked defiant, his chin high. Maddox looked murderous, his eyes promising violence. The evidence was presented methodically. The altered patrol logs. The hidden weapon caches. Security footage from the lunar market showing both men meeting in secret. And finally, the recording from the ceremony, both men's voices clearly audible as they discussed triggering the explosives. You plan to murder dozens of your own pack members, the head judge, Alpha Helena from the Mountain Pack, said coldly. You conspired across pack lines, not for peace, but for continued violence. You framed innocent wolves and nearly destroyed a historic alliance. What do you have to say? I say we're the only ones with the courage to preserve what we are, Victor snarled. Wolves aren't meant to lie down with our enemies. We're meant to dominate or be dominated. This alliance is weakness disguised as wisdom. And you, Maddox? I agree. The Ashwoods are treacherous, always have been. Better to end them completely than pretend we can coexist. He looked directly at Rowan. You've betrayed everything your grandfather fought for. Everything our pack stands for. History will remember you as the Blackthorn who chose comfort over honor. Rowan stood, his voice carrying across the chamber. My grandfather fought because he believed he had to. Because wolves like you told him the only choice was violence. But history doesn't have to repeat itself. We can choose something different. Something better. We already have, Kiera added, standing beside him. And that's what terrifies you, isn't it? Not that we'll fail, that we'll succeed. That will prove everything you believe about natural enemies and inevitable conflict is wrong. Victor's face twisted with rage, but before he could respond, Alpha Helena spoke. The council has reached a verdict. Victor Ashwood and Maddox Blackthorn, you are both found guilty of conspiracy, attempted murder, and treason. You are hereby stripped of your pack affiliations, your names, your rights as wolves. You will be exiled to the disputed territories with no pack protection, no resources, no return. The sentence was harsh. Exile was essentially a death sentence for a wolf. Without pack bonds, without territory, they'd be rogues. Vulnerable to every predator and rival. But given what they'd attempted, it was just. Guards dragged both men away, still shouting about betrayal and weakness. The chamber erupted into mixed reactions, some cheering, some somber, everyone processing what this meant. Justice. Closure. A line drawn between the old ways and the new. As the crowd dispersed, Kiera felt her father's hand on her shoulder. You did well, Thomas said quietly. Both of you. You gave them a chance to show remorse, to explain themselves. They chose defiance. Do you think there are others?
Kiera asked.
Other wolves who feel the same way Victor did? Undoubtedly. Change is never easy, and some will always resist it. Thomas looked at Rowan, then back to her. But you've given those who want peace something to fight for. A vision of what's possible. That's worth more than you know. Gavin approached, looking tired but satisfied. The council is recommending full integration of our packs within the year. Shared territories, merged leadership, everything we discussed.
A year?
Rowan looked startled. That's faster than expected. The council wants to capitalize on the momentum. Show that this alliance isn't just political theater, it's real, lasting change. Gavin's expression softened as he looked at his son. You ready for that? For your mate's pack to become your pack, and vice versa? More than ready, Rowan said, taking Kiera's hand. We've been ready since the clearing. Both alphas smiled, real smiles, not the political masks they'd worn for so long. Then let's build something worth passing on to the next generation, Thomas said. Something better than what we inherited. Chapter 9. 6 months later. The transformation was undeniable. Kiera stood on the porch of the border house, watching mixed patrols of Ashwood and Blackthorn wolves running together through the forest. No longer separate territories, just pack land, shared and protected by all. It hadn't been easy. There had been fights, arguments, moments where old grudges threatened to tear apart everything they'd built. But slowly, painfully, beautifully, the two packs were becoming one. You're thinking too loud, Rowan said, emerging from the house with 2 cups of coffee. I can hear your brain working from inside. Just reflecting. 6 months ago, I was sneaking to the neutral zone, terrified someone would see me talking to you. Now look at us. She gestured to the patrols. Ashwood and Blackthorn, running together. Marcus and Sarah co-leading the council. Nadia dating Dash. Your father and mine actually laughing over dinner last week, Rowan added, handing her a cup. It's almost surreal. Almost. It would be completely surreal if we didn't still have wolves challenging the changes weekly. Like yesterday, when Garrett refused to patrol with a Blackthorn partner.
Kiera sighed.
Garrett, one of the older Ashwood warriors, had been vocal about his opposition to integration from the start. Not violent like Victor, but stubborn and bitter. What did you do? I partnered with him myself. Spent 6 hours listening to him complain about the old days and how wolves knew their place. Rowan sipped his coffee. By the end, He admitted that maybe not all Blackthorns were bloodthirsty savages. Progress. Baby steps. Baby steps that add up to miles over time. He set down his cup and pulled her close. We're doing it, Kiera. Actually building something new. It's messy and complicated, and some days I want to tear my hair out, but we're doing it. She leaned into him, breathing in his familiar scent. The mate bond had only grown stronger over the months, not just passion, but deep understanding. Partnership in its truest form. I'm pregnant, she said suddenly. Rowan went completely still. What? I'm pregnant. Found out this morning. Kiera pulled back to look at his face. I know it's fast, I know we're still working on integrating the packs, but... He kissed her, hard and joyful, lifting her off her feet. When he finally set her down, his eyes were bright with unshed tears. That's incredible. Amazing.
Terrifying.
When? How far along? Are you okay?
Do you need anything?
About 6 weeks. And I'm fine. Better than fine. She placed his hand on her still flat stomach. We're going to have a baby, Rowan. A child who'll never know the old hatred. Who'll grow up with both bloodlines, both legacies, and none of the baggage. The first true child of the Alliance, he said softly. They're going to be extraordinary. They're going to be spoiled rotten by 2 packs of honorary aunts and uncles. That too. He kept his hand on her stomach, awe written across his face. Should we tell our parents?
Soon.
But I wanted you to know first. Kiera covered his hand with hers. Our family, our choice, our future. The moment was interrupted by a commotion from the forest, raised voices, the sound of a scuffle. Both of them were instantly alert, hands going to the weapons they still carried out of habit. Marcus burst from the treeline, dragging someone behind him. No, not dragging. Protecting. It was a young wolf Kiera didn't recognize, female, probably not even 20. She looked half-starved, her clothes torn, her eyes wild with fear. Found her on the western border, Marcus said, breathing hard. She's been tracking us for 3 days, trying to work up the courage to approach. I need sanctuary, the girl gasped.
Please.
I heard about the Alliance, about the new pack. I heard you take in wolves who don't fit anywhere else. Rowan crouched down to her level. What's your name?
Riley.
Riley Thornton. I was Riverside Pack, but she swallowed hard. But I made it to a wolf from the Valley Pack. They said I had to choose my mate or my pack. When I chose him, they exiled me. Both of us. Where's your mate now? Kiera asked gently.
Dead.
Killed by rogues 2 weeks ago. I've been running since then, trying to survive without pack protection. Tears streaked down Riley's face. I have nowhere else to go. If you turn me away, I'll die out there. Kiera and Rowan looked at each other, the same thought passing between them. This was what the Alliance was supposed to be about, not just merging 2 packs, but creating something better. A place where wolves could be themselves, could make their own choices, without fear of exile or death. You have sanctuary, Kiera said firmly. Both as part of our pack and in memory of your mate. No one should have to choose between love and family. You mean it? Riley looked between them, disbelieving. You'll take me in? Even though I'm no one. Even though I have nothing to offer. You're a wolf who needs a pack. That's enough. Rowan helped her to her feet. Marcus will take you to the manor. Get you food, medical attention, and a place to rest. Tomorrow, we'll figure out the rest. As Marcus led Riley away, Kiera felt a swell of emotion. This was exactly what Victor had feared, that their alliance would attract others. That it would grow beyond their control, becoming something bigger than just 2 packs making peace. He'd been right to fear it, because it was working. How many more do you think will come? Rowan asked, echoing her thoughts. I don't know, but however many it is, we'll find room for them.
She squeezed his hand.
That's what being a pack means. Protecting each other. All of us. All of us, he agreed. Starting with our own pup. Kiera laughed, the sound bright and full of hope. 6 months ago, she'd been terrified of the future. Now she couldn't wait to see what it held. Chapter 10. 1 year. 12 full moons since that first meeting in the clearing. Kiera stood at the edge of the now expanded pack territory, one hand resting on her very pregnant belly, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Behind her, the sounds of celebration drifted from the new central lodge, a massive structure built to house both packs during gatherings. Today marked the official end of the integration period. As of sunset, there was no more Ashwood pack or Blackthorn pack. Just one unified pack, bound by choice rather than blood, by love rather than law. The Moonridge pack, they decided to call it. A new name for a new beginning. "You shouldn't be out here alone," Rowan said, materializing beside her like he always did, uncanny timing born of the mate bond. "I'm not alone. I've got company." She patted her stomach, where their daughter seemed to be practicing gymnastics. "She's very active today. Probably excited about the ceremony." He wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Or maybe she's just tired of being in there. You're due any day now." "Don't remind me. I'd like to get through tonight without going into labor in front of 300 pack members." "Where's your sense of drama?" "I left it somewhere around my 7th month when I stopped being able to see my own feet." Rowan laughed, the sound vibrating through both of them. "Come on. They're about to start." The ceremony was simpler than their bonding had been. No elaborate rituals, no blood oaths. Just both former alphas standing together, officially dissolving their old packs and creating the new one. Thomas and Gavin stood on the raised platform, looking older but somehow lighter. Retirement suited them. They'd both chosen to step back, letting the next generation lead. "For 100 years, our packs lived in fear and hatred," Thomas began. "We taught our children that the other side was evil, that peace was impossible, that violence was the only language we shared." "We were wrong," Gavin continued. "Not about the pain. That was real. Not about the losses. Those were devastating. But about the inevitability of it. About whether things could ever change. Our children proved us wrong," Thomas said, his gaze finding Kiera. "They showed us that love can be stronger than hate. That choosing peace takes more courage than choosing war. That the future doesn't have to mirror the past." "So tonight, we release the old grudges," Gavin declared. "We honor the dead not by perpetuating their conflicts, but by building something they would have wanted if they'd lived long enough to see it, a world where their children could thrive." "We dissolve Pack Ashwood," Thomas said formally. "We dissolve Pack Blackthorn," Gavin echoed. "And we create Pack Moonridge," they said together. "United. Unbreakable. Unstoppable." The crowd erupted into howls. Hundreds of voices raised together in celebration. Kiera felt her own wolf surge forward, adding her voice to the chorus. Beside her, Rowan did the same, and their howls twined together, harmonizing in a way that made her heart ache with joy. This was her pack. Their pack. Everyone here had chosen this. Chosen unity over division, hope over fear, love over hate. As the howling faded, Marcus stepped forward. "And now, we officially recognize our new alphas. The wolves who led us here, who risked everything to make this possible." "Kiera Ashwood Blackthorn," Sarah called. "Rowan Blackthorn Ashwood," Nadia added. The hyphenated names had been Sage's suggestion, a visible symbol that they belonged to both bloodlines equally, that neither pack was absorbing the other. It had taken some getting used to, but now Kiera couldn't imagine it any other way. "Do you accept the responsibility of leading Pack Moonridge?" Marcus asked formally. "Of protecting all who shelter under our banner, of making decisions for the good of the whole, of carrying the weight of hundreds of lives on your shoulders?" "We do," Kiera and Rowan said together, hands clasped. Then, by the authority of the Council of Alphas, by the consent of the pack, and by the blessing of the full moon, Thomas placed his hands on their shoulders. "We name you Alpha and Alpha of Pack Moonridge. May your reign be long, and your wisdom deep." More howling, more celebration. Kiera felt tears streaming down her face, and she didn't bother to hide them. This moment, this impossible, beautiful moment, was everything they'd fought for. The party lasted well into the night. Wolves from both former packs, no, from Moonridge now, dancing together, laughing together, sharing stories and food and fellowship. Kiera watched Garrett, the stubborn warrior who'd resisted change, teaching a group of young Blackthorn pups how to track. Watched her father and Gavin arguing cheerfully about hunting tactics. Watched Riley, the exile they'd taken in, surrounded by friends she'd made in just 6 months. Watched 100 tiny miracles that proved this was real, that it was working. Alpha Kiera, Rowan said, trying out the title. How does it feel? Terrifying. Exhilarating. Right. She leaned into him. How about you, Alpha Rowan?
Same.
Also incredibly grateful. He kissed her temple. A year ago, I was sneaking to the neutral zone, convinced I was falling for someone I could never have. Now she's my wife, my co-alpha, the mother of my child. Kiera gasped, doubling over as a sharp pain lanced through her abdomen. Kiera? Rowan's hands were instantly on her, steadying her. What's wrong? I think, another contraction, stronger this time. I think our daughter has really bad timing. His eyes went wide. You're in labor?
Now.
Apparently, she inherited your sense of drama after all. The next few hours were chaos. Kiera was rushed to the medical center they'd built, a joint facility staffed by healers from both former packs. Rowan refused to leave her side despite multiple offers to wait outside. We do everything together, remember? He said, gripping her hand through another contraction. I'm not missing this. You might regret that when I break your fingers. Worth it. The labor was long and difficult, but finally, as dawn broke over the newly unified territory, their daughter entered the world with a strong, healthy cry that made everyone in the room laugh with relief. She was perfect, tiny and red-faced and absolutely perfect, with a tuft of dark hair and eyes that would probably settle into some shade between Kiera's green and Rowan's gray. She's beautiful, Rowan whispered, tears streaming down his face as he held their daughter for the first time. She's so beautiful, Kiera. She is, Kiera agreed, exhausted and exhilarated. What should we call her? They discussed names for months, never quite settling on one. But now, looking at their daughter, the first child born to the unified pack, the living symbol of everything they'd built, the answer seemed obvious. Luna, Rowan said, for the moon that brought us together, for the light that guided us through the darkness. Luna Ashwood Blackthorn, Kiera added. Perfect. 3 months later, Kiera stood in the same clearing where she'd first met Rowan, Luna sleeping peacefully in a sling against her chest. The trees were budding with spring growth, and the air smelled like new beginnings. There you are, Rowan said, joining her. I should have known you'd come here. I wanted Luna to see it, the place where everything started. Kiera looked around the clearing, remembering that night. The fear, the attraction, the impossible pull toward someone she was supposed to hate. We've come a long way since then, Rowan observed, slipping an arm around her waist. We have. From forbidden lovers to co-alphas. From secret meetings to leading 300 wolves. She looked up at him. Do you ever miss it? The simplicity of when it was just us against the world. Sometimes. But then I look at what we've built, the pack, the peace, our daughter, and I realize the world we created together is so much better than hiding from it ever was. He kissed her softly. I love you, Kiera. I loved you when it was forbidden, and I love you now that it's celebrated. Nothing will ever change that. I love you too. Always. Luna stirred, making a soft sound. Both parents looked down at their daughter, matching expressions of wonder on their faces. She's going to change the world, Kiera said softly. Her and all the pups who come after. They'll grow up never knowing the old hatred, never understanding why our families tried so hard to keep us apart. And that's exactly how it should be. Rowan traced a finger down Luna's tiny cheek. We broke the cycle. Stopped the wheel. Whatever comes next, it'll be better than what came before. They stood together in the clearing as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of twilight. 1 year ago, Kiera had been terrified of the future. Now she couldn't wait to see what it held. Because whatever challenges came, whatever obstacles arose, they'd face them together. Alpha and alpha. Mate and mate. Partners in every sense of the word. The forbidden love that had defied every rule had become the foundation of something greater than either of them could have imagined. A pack united. A future secured. A legacy that would echo through generations. Luna yawned, her tiny fist curling around Kiera's finger, and in that moment, everything felt complete. Ready to go home? Rowan asked. Yeah, Kiera said, smiling up at the rising moon. Let's go home. And together, the new family walked back toward Pack Moonridge, toward their pack, their people, their future. Toward a world where love had conquered law, where choice had triumphed over tradition, and where two wolves from opposite sides of a century-old war had proven that sometimes the most forbidden love becomes the greatest legacy. 20 years later, Luna Ashwood Blackthorn would stand in that same clearing with her own forbidden love, a vampire prince from the territories beyond. And her parents, Alpha Kiera and Alpha Rowan, would smile and say, "Love that breaks boundaries is the strongest kind." We should know. Pack Moonridge would grow to become the largest and most diverse pack in the region, accepting wolves of all backgrounds, all stories, all histories. The old ways would fade into legend, replaced by new traditions built on choice and unity. And in the archives, carefully preserved, would be the story of how it all began, with two wolves who dared to love across enemy lines, who risked everything for a chance at something better, and who proved that the heart knows no borders. Some loves are meant to be hidden in the shadows, but the greatest loves change the world when they step into the light. The end. Thank you for joining Kiera and Rowan on their journey from forbidden lovers to legendary alphas. May their story remind us all that love, true love, can conquer anything.